Good Wednesday afternoon. It is September 18th, 2019. I'm meteorologist Tim Pandajis with an update on a very active Atlantic basin in terms of hurricanes and tropical systems. We have Hurricane Humberto, Category 3 major hurricane, Tropical Depression Imelda, and Tropical Storm, our newest addition, Jerry, way out in the main development region in the Atlantic. In terms of named systems, we're on our 10th named storm with the addition of Jerry overnight. And in terms of climatology, when we look at it from 1966 to 2009, typically our 10th named storm comes in around October 19th. So we're about a month ahead of time. However, if Jerry does strengthen and become our 4th hurricane of the year, which in fact it is forecast to do in the coming days, we usually see that around September 21st, and we could hit that right on the head as Jerry continues to strengthen. Here's how it looks on satellite imagery throughout the Atlantic basin. We have 3 areas of interest. We'll start off with a major hurricane. That's Humberto, 120-mile-per-hour winds, gusts of 150. It is heading towards Bermuda. It'll be on the dry side of the storm, but with such a large wind field, they will likely encounter hurricane-force winds within the next 12 hours or so. As it looks on visible satellite imagery, still a very potent, formidable storm with those winds of 120 sustained. Something very interesting happened today. Now, it's out in the middle of the Atlantic, right? We don't have much in terms of observations in the middle of the ocean. However, we do have NOAA buoys. And it's very rare for a storm system to pass directly over, even more rare for the center of the storm to move right over a buoy. That's exactly what happened with Humberto earlier today. This buoy right here clocked a central pressure of 955 millibars, and we go a little farther out, a maximum wind speed of 94 miles per hour before the storm passed over and moved farther off to the north and east towards Bermuda. That wind field is quite large, abnormally large for a system of this size. Hurricane force winds extend out 105 miles from the center. Tropical storm force winds extend out 195 miles. You look at Bermuda right there. They are likely going to encounter some hurricane force winds later on this evening into the first half of the overnight before the storm exits off to the north and east and gradually weakens into the northern parts of the Atlantic. The islands of Bermuda under a hurricane warning. That means hurricane conditions are imminent within a very short while. In fact, in this case, less than 12 hours. You see the track on it from the hurricane center. It takes it just northwest. The storm center with that large wind field will impact Bermuda. And then as it moves into the North Atlantic, colder ocean temperatures, less fuel. So the storm gradually will start to weaken and peter on out. Now we have Imelda. Yesterday it made landfall on the coast of Texas as a tropical storm. Very short-lived, back down to a tropical depression now with winds of 30 miles per hour. The advisories on this one are no longer put out by the National Hurricane Center. It's been handed over to the Weather Prediction Center now that it's moved in and over land. Plenty of rain with this. The Houston radar site shows the bright bands here indicating 1 to 2 to 3 inch per hour rainfall rates in some spots here. Could pick up over a foot of rain, probably more than that within the next 12 to 24 hours. Here's the last advisory as of 11 a.m. Just shows it as a tropical depression moving over land. The computer models put a good amount of rain out for the next couple of days right through Friday afternoon. 10 to 15 inches there, according to the GFS. The European model, much more. 10, 15, even 20 inches of rain right along the state border with Louisiana and Texas through Friday afternoon. And then our newest addition, Tropical Storm Jerry, here sitting in the Atlantic over very warm waters. Pretty good ideal conditions with the exception of some moderate wind shear, but that seems to be holding off that pretty well. As you look at the infrared imagery here, the white colors indicate some very healthy thunderstorm growth towards the center of circulation of this storm. I want to show you here on visible satellite imagery, because you look on the western side here, this is something called transverse banding, and this is an indication that the storm is well ventilated. We have inflow at the surface, outflow aloft. It is breathing well, and that usually indicates some strengthening and intensification in the short term, and that's exactly what's expected to happen. And we switch up the imagery here, water vapor, moist air to dry air. We don't want to see any dry air getting sucked into the circulation to choke it off. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. None of that. It's holding off any of that dry air that's out ahead of it. Maybe in the short term it pulls a little bit in, but not likely going to be something that holds it back. The first mission of the hurricane hunters is currently in the storm. They are forward deployed out of Barbados, and this is an a high-altitude flight that's flying out ahead of it, sampling the environment and moving over the system to get a feel for how the upper-level dynamics are and how the overall environment could help to build this storm up. That data will be put into computer models and give us a better picture on where Jerry is going and how strong it will be. But you may be asking, well, if this is the first mission, How did we know that it became a tropical storm late last night and early this evening? Well, we use satellites. You know, we're out in the middle of the ocean. We don't have buoys in a lot of areas. There are some out there, as you saw. Humberto passed over one, but there aren't that many. They don't cover the whole ocean. So we rely on satellite observations. And in this case, a microwave scatterometer. What this does, it emits microwaves and measures the reflection and the scattering of those waves off of Bragg waves or ripples on the ocean. And from that, we can calculate the surface winds, and it gives us a wind direction. We can see where there's a closed-off center of circulation that tells us that a tropical storm is undergoing genesis, and that's what we use until we can get some planes out into it or it gets closer to land, and we can get other observations. Where is Jerry going? This is going to be a very important question, obviously, on if it impacts areas north of the Leeward Islands, over into the Bahamas, or even eventually the eastern seaboard. It is going to depend on the strength of the system. If it is weaker, it recurves out to sea. If it is stronger, it continues farther west and further to the south. I want to show you the European model ensembles. There are 50 members to this ensemble. What that means is it's the European run 50 times, and we're changing initial data there to see a different outcome. Huge spread, obviously, but notice the most likely outcome from this run is a recurvature out to sea, a weaker Jerry. However, there are a bunch, at least half a dozen here, that do indicate a stronger Jerry that's more influenced to upper-level steering mechanisms, in this case an upper-level ridge, that would push it farther to the west and further south, potentially somewhere in the Bahamas or Florida or the eastern seaboard. Again, this is the minority here. The majority takes it out to sea recurving. How about the GFS members? 21 members on this suite. Most of these do show that recurvature, just one or two, a slightly stronger Jerry, and farther to the west into the southwest. The official forecast as of 11 a.m. from the National Hurricane Center keeps it conservative, only up to a Category 1 hurricane, and then at the tail end, the 5-day outlook has it back down to a tropical storm. With the amount of strengthening and intensification that's already happened today, I think that might be a little bit stronger than what we'll see here. We'll see how things pan out in the next couple days. The next advisory from the National Hurricane Center comes out at 5 o'clock tonight, and we'll see a track update and a little update on terms of any intensification as well. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.